Hello, everyone, and welcome to the QCS 360 podcast. I'm Nicole Reisdorfer, Senior Manager of Marketing at QCS Purchasing Cooperative. For today's episode, we have the QCS Category Leader, Hector Macdonald, with us to give a rundown on the printed packaging program. Good afternoon, Hector, and thank you for being with us today. Let's get the listeners acquainted with you by telling us about yourself and your background in the packaging industry.
Well, thank you, Nicole. Thanks for having me. I started my packaging industry experience working in the whiskey industry predominantly with a glue company. It was a Unilever company, and it was everything from labeling whiskey bottles to putting them in cartons and boxes to hot melting the outer corrugated cases, and I did that for a number of years. Then I moved down to England, to the Midlands, where I started off a sales and marketing role for a litho folding carton company. I had half my time in sales and marketing there, and the latter half was in operations as a general manager of 3 printing plants, litho folding cartons, flexo frozen poly bags, and then gravure, tag, and label. Worked 3 years for US Can, then jumped to Fort Dearborn because I used them at US Can for 6-color printing. And then I, still on a visa, jumped to SourceWorks. Then we got naturalized dual citizenship. So I stayed at SourceWorks 14 years till 2018. Then I retired. And then QCS invited me to do the same kind of thing that we did at SourceWorks, build a printed packaging sourcing model within QCS. We looked into that from a cost point of view. It's a little costly. Didn't want to load the members with that, so we decided to marry SourceWorks and QCS together.
Great. As the category leader of printed packaging, can you give us an overview of the program and the products it encompasses?
Sure. I don't know if it's okay to use little handhelds like this, but it's all forms of printed packaging. I'll just go through them quick, mainly into four categories. Labels, whether it's cut and stack labels for canned goods, pressure sensitive labels for dairy, teas, beverage, soda, cartons, whether it's single cartons for product or collation cartons for multi-packs, but folding cartons is a big part of it. Shrink bundle wrap, either clear or printed, is a big component of it, as well as in-mold, injection mold labels, and a lot of flexible packaging from flow wraps to pouches, gusseted pouches, stand-up pouches, tear notch pouches. So it's 80% printed materials, consumables that our members are all using in some shape, size, or form, and it's about 20% non-printed, such as pellet stretch wrap and plain shrink bundle film. That's the category. At the moment, we've just come to 4 years. This is just the end of the 4th year, and we have 11,000 SKUs at 32 members.
Wow, that's impressive. And definitely, if anybody's interested in seeing that picture that Hector has, we'd be happy to send it out. We do have that available. So Hector, what would the advantages be to QCS members for participating in this program?
They're varied, Nicole, but I tried to dial it down to 5 or 6 real advantages. 5 or 6 areas that I spend most of my time working with members on. Number 1 is artwork. If we are going to change a supplier, which is never an easy thing to do, especially with graphics involved, the number of times members either they want a second supplier, a contingency supplier, they want to be able to pivot with the supply chain challenges, raw material challenges, lead times. So they reach out to the current printer for their files, and they can get them, but they're costing $1,000 to $1,200 per SKU. And most of our members have, 30, 70, 120 SKUs. So that really is a very gray area. We help with a draft letter that we've composed, asking for files and backup and who owns the logo, the image, the die line, the plates. And if you are changing vendors in any of these packaging types, we've also drafted a letter to say, hey, we'll give you this business, but it's on the understanding that all the aforementioned belongs to us. So artwork backup to a third party, an Iron Mountain, artwork control, version control, we're a big help there because we know how that goes. And our members sometimes go, wow, they get a flat picture of their artwork, but they need it separated, and we can help with that process. The second thing we've helped with is most of the new business that's come into this program in the last 18 months has been because members want a second supply situation. They want contingency. They want a backup. They want two dogs in the fight because it's been a difficult supply chain. So we help with that. We qualify another printer who we know. We've got a stable of 30 printers that we go to, and we offer them one or two, and they have dialogue, and we do test runs, and there's a process for onboarding that second printer. So contingency backup and a 20-30% supply situation on a member who has quite a large spend is where we spent a lot of time establishing that. The third one is just, with other category leaders, we're all kind of older, gray-haired, retired wannabes that have a lot of deep product and deep market and deep supply chain intelligence, whether it's market intelligence, competitor intelligence. We get a window on 800 plus members, and we get a magnifying glass on the top 50 or 60. So we know who's doing what well, and without sharing confidentiality issues, we can suggest how to do it, who to do it with, when and where. So it's just market knowledge and product knowledge that maybe some of our members don't have that vertical depth in a particular area. Then from that, we've developed cost models. So we get down to the dollars per 1,000 square inches that you're buying on whatever type of packaging it is. That's for you, the member. What's the MSI? Dollars per 1,000 square inches. We've got cost models where we plug in the length, the width, the height, the cost, the area, the run length, the average run length, the make ready time, and we give you a bookend of what you should be paying for your types of packaging. And we also work with the printers. If we take your 50 SKUs and the average run length is 60,000 and you order them every 8 weeks, we can work with the printer on their cost models as to the added value per press hour that your work generates for that printer. So we've got cost modeling pretty well noodled down. And then we've got critical mass is a value to the printers versus them, to the members, versus them going with their body of work, their number of SKUs, their spend. We aggregate it and leverage it with as many other members with similar products that we can. And we get a better point on the printer's cost curve by putting a bow around 6, 8, or 10 members work together, which we've recently done in the Midwest to get better price point. And then it's just the last one is experience and connections. Who we know, what we know, and timing, and non-market moves, market intelligence. It's just we're a good eyeglass on the market for members, and that's the 6 things.
Excellent, thank you. So what are the type of companies that can benefit most from this program?
Well, it's the companies that, sometimes we see a large company with a large spend going across a printer converter that's got small print assets, small converting assets, and the math just doesn't work. In that scenario, or the inverse of that is a smaller member, middle-sized member is going across the biggest printed packaging converter there. So that MSI and added value per press hour is where we can help them. Are they in the right place? Is their work going across the right assets to deliver the value in production per hour? But if also members who have artwork questions, it's those 6 things again. If they're needing contingency, if they're needing market knowledge, product knowledge, cost modeling to go to market with other members through us, and to utilize the experience and connections, it's just we're there for them as a resource. And our members are, it's tough out there with the Walmarts and the Costco's and the Targets, and the added value at the member level is quick to disseminate, and just a lot of people don't have the resource to handle it all, to handle all their SKUs in every aspect in the printed packaging workflow. So we're just providing them with a vehicle that helps them hitch up to it and utilize it as a resource.
Excellent. Can you give us a few recent examples of how you have helped members?
Yeah, I jotted down 3. One of the first members to engage is they had an incumbent printer who asked for a 5% increase on labels, on pressure sensitive labels, and they didn't know how to really push back on it. It was in the early times of COVID, and so they asked us to go and work with the incumbent member. And long story short, we came away with a 5% decrease versus where they were, so a 10% gap. And we also introduced them to we brought on a 25% second supplier. And that moved us on from labels. They said, can we do the same with film? Can we do the same with boxes? So that was, it just cascaded nicely, because the member realized the value in getting people who know the market, who know the dynamics, who know the cost models, to talk to the printers and say, why are you asking us for a price increase when we could pivot over here, and so forth. So that was one member. We had another member that when they went to ask for their files, there was 120 some files, again in the label space, again in the dairy space. And the incumbent printer had enjoyed the business for a number of years, but they would not yield on the files. They wouldn't even take money for the files. So we were able to give that member a 5-month ROI at the same price as he was paying his incumbent, and recreate all his 120 plus files so that he had them on site and backed up with us. And within 5 months, after 5 months, he then enjoyed the savings after we paid for that process. And then the last one is the last member with price increases in the last 12, 15 months, with lead times going out to 8 to 12 weeks for boxes. We got to a 4 or 5 week lead time with a 7% price decrease, and we came in as a second supplier. But next year, the plan is to go from being the 30% supplier to being the 70% supplier. So in those 3 cases, there's a common theme of a challenged supply chain and being able to pivot and owning your assets.
Wow, those are some excellent examples, Hector. Just amazing. What insights can you give the listeners of the podcast as to the current state of the category and what members should be concerned with?
Down to those reasons of helping members with their artwork, helping members with a contingency, a second supply, utilizing the cost models and print relationships that we have, that getting the printer the value added per hour from work, getting the critical mass going together, putting a ribbon around it, and making it as attractive as possible to the printers. And then just with the, marrying the members' needs with the print assets that we have available to us with the 30 print partnerships we have. That's why it's growing. 2 times out of 3, the members in a good spot. They've already done all the hard work. But 1 time out of 3, and it's normally on the 3rd or 4th look around, we find something that we can help them with, whether it's lead time, whether it's price decrease, whether it's price mitigation, file control, letter to the retailer, letter to the printer, market intel and just knowledge and who's buying who. It's just, where is the best place for that body of work to reside? That, just identifying that via those tools is what is added, a standing start at $0 category to go. It'll do 25 million next year.
Excellent, Hector. To get into contact with Hector Macdonald, email QCS at info@qcspurchasing.com. Thanks for joining me today, Hector.
Thank you, Nicole. It's a pleasure.
Your insights into the printed packaging business are crucial to the food and beverage industry, and thank you to our listeners. Tune in next month for more updates on QCS programs.